we'll start off, we'll kick off our panel, which is going to be on development, which I heard some rumors it's not so easy to get financed for that, but we'll talk a little bit more about that now. Um, so we're going to really talk about development in the region, a little bit of ESG and how that's also played a role, financing, a little bit with the banking. Well, for sure we'll cover an investment. And we've got a great panel here, and I think Chaba, if it's okay, we'll start with you and maybe just everybody and say who they are and introduce themselves, a little bit about the company, and then we'll go on to some kick off with some questions.
Okay. I'm on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Csaba Zelei. I'm the managing director of Convergence. We are a boutique investor / asset manager firm recently specialized in office buildings and retrofits in Budapest.
Okay.
Great, Csaba. Good to have you here. Hi, my name is Walter Kalaus. I'm the managing partner of a global real estate advisory firm, Newmark, Hungarian office in Budapest. We deal with office, industrial, retail properties, some hotel and leisure industry as well, and glad to be here.
Thank you. I'm Zsolt Berényi. I'm the Group Development Director of GTC currently, but I'm somewhere in between because I'm leaving the company, but still representing GTC. We are developers, mostly offices, but residentials and some hospitality as well. We are present in the region, so in 6 countries: Serbia, Croatia, Poland, Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania. And yeah, ready for this prosperous
Ready for
discussion.
the panel. Yeah. Okay. So George, we'll start with you. And how do you see the market? How do you see the development market? Maybe things are changing at GTC, but what is the vision, or what do you see going forward as opportunities for investors and developers?
Well, surprisingly, I still believe in office developments here in Hungary as well. The reason why I do is just we just had this very, very interesting discussion earlier on, which was kind of touching the ESG things and EU taxonomy things quite much. And there are no currently available office building which can support or kind of fulfill, satisfy these kind of requirements of the tenants. It's zero currently on the market. So someone needs to develop it. So that's one thing why I believe in that. Regionally, what I experienced in the past 1.5 years is that Serbia is a brilliant country. Belgrade is the next booming thing, I think. The vacancy rate in Belgrade in office buildings is less than 3%, or more or less 3%. And Zagreb as well is a very good thing. It's a much smaller kind of country with a much lower population, but the vacancy rate there is 2.6% currently. So those are the countries which I think will be the next kind of office development potentials for regional developers.
So, Chaba, tell us a little bit about your building you just delivered, or I would say just recently delivered, and then what you see also for the future in office development or any other kind of asset classes here in Hungary.
Well, I think the general mood is very bad currently. But in my mind, as I said, we only focus on office buildings, or mainly focus on office buildings. The office market somehow became very healthy compared to 2017-19. If the vacancy is around 5%, it basically means that you can't find an office. It's very similar to the unemployment rate being that low. If it's that low, you can't find anyone.
Right. That 5% is like something in the basement or some extra place.
I wouldn't want to name some office buildings, but even XY, if even XY office building is full, then it shows what state the market is. We, as I said, we recently focused on refurbishments, and surprisingly, if you have a well-located office building, a proven located office building, which is well managed, you can achieve great success when it comes to leasing. So we manage approximately 60,000 square meters and 6 buildings in Budapest, and we don't have leasing issues. If there's a vacancy, we can deal with it. In one of our buildings in Central Bula, 4,000 square meters left in February this year, and by this time we could release it. So I think the office market is extremely healthy with the current vacancy and the current, especially with the current new supply, which is extremely low.
So why is the sentiment so bad? If all the space is filled and
It's all about the investment market, I think. So
people are nervous, they can't sell it, they can't refinance it.
Yeah.
Okay. Walter, jump in here on that. Probably you're dealing with a lot of investors these days, or trying to wake them up a little bit and get them moving. How do you see the investment market, and what is going to change, or how is it going to change from being so, let's say, quiet at the moment?
Well, first of all, let me agree with Csaba that despite many different statements or worries, I think the Budapest office leasing market is in a healthy stage. I agree that the 5% vacancy rate which we had prior to COVID was just not a manageable, not a good stage. Although many landlords really enjoyed and loved the situation. Today we are about 13% vacancy on paper and on statistics, but obviously this number also includes some of the peripheral markets such as Budaörs, which is obviously dealing with a lot higher vacancy. So in certain submarkets, we are certainly in a single-digit vacancy rate, which is absolutely considered to be a healthy market condition, because you can actually, if you choose to relocate from your existing office building, you can actually find space or find a possible alternative. Now, obviously, the market considerably slowed down in terms of investment. There are many different factors, many different reasons for that. We just simply don't have enough time to list all those. But obviously, we are dealing with a very difficult global economical situation. We've got some very unhealthy and unfriendly situations, in Ukraine, in Russia. We got some terrible things happening in Israel. We've got some very bad things happening, in Brussels, in Paris, and in some other cities. Obviously, approximately a year ago, we started facing some hefty increases in prices for electricity, gas, highly affecting the service charges. We're dealing with an uncertainty in a euro foreign exchange rate. These are just some of the factors that are heavily influencing the investment market. And obviously, the political situation in Hungary is not a friendly one either, with the eyes of an overseas investor. So there's a lot of different factors which are making very, very difficult the current situation in Budapest. But still, I mean, we've got some transactions on the market. Obviously, we would love to see some more, but we gotta face the fact that probably we're not gonna see a whole lot more transactions in upcoming I don't know, 9 to 12 months. So I think it's safe to say that 2023 is a difficult year. 2024 is not going to be a whole lot better in terms of number of investment transactions.
Right. And Csaba, so how do you see going forward? Are you looking for sites? Are you ready to do the next take over some other office buildings that are in good locations and manage them? Where do you see, if it's going to get worse in 2024, how do you?
I'm not sure if it will get worse. We are continuously looking for opportunities, and I see the market that opportunities for us, undermanaged building that needs refurbishment, ESG elements, and our services, because we usually put all of our services into a building, and this is how we add the value. These opportunities will come, and once they are here, we will go for them. And at the moment, we're looking at 2 new buildings that we can do what we did with Calvin Square, Academia, or Citizen, because these opportunities are there. The good news is that if we had to do a speculative building, we couldn't get financing. The big result of COVID is that basically the effect of COVID is that the pre-lease market is gone. So it would be almost impossible to get a pre-lease. So again, no financing. With an existing building, with certain elements of leasing, 30 to 50%, you can get financing. The bank will finance, and you can do a good job.
Yeah, I mean, the pre-leases, whenever I'm talking to big corporate users, and I'm like, someone will say, oh, you hear usually people that don't know what they're talking about will say, oh, the office market's dead or something like this. I talk to the corporate end users and they're saying, no, it's not dead. We just don't know what to sign.
Yeah, it's very easy to say the office market is dead. And recent studies show that when it comes to home working, Budapest is one of the last countries in Europe in home working. Another study I read said that more than 60% of the managing directors now say that they want to have the full office back in 3 years.
Right.
How will they do it?
Just a reflection on that. The KPMG just issued that CEO analysis or study saying that in 3 to 5 years they want the full team back to the office.
Yeah, right.
Like 65% or something
Yeah,
like that.
65% said, I heard that I read the study, 65% said that they want to have the entire office back in 3 years, which is very interesting.
Right. I mean, there is a few percent, and there always will be, of people that can work at home if they're doing project work or coding or some IT stuff I don't understand. But generally, I think it was always the same thing. The people in the office that are coming there and doing the work, it's hard enough to manage them when they're there. Yeah. When they're at home and there's the dog and there's the TV and there's the wife, the husband, the kids walking buying stuff. No way to manage them. Yeah. They come in and you see they're in the office and they're on Facebook. Well, if they're sitting at home, they're probably on many different things.
Yeah, and what can a managing director of a company who wants the entire team back do now in an environment when the unemployment rate is that low? They can motivate the people. Right. They can motivate them financially, lots of other ways I don't know of, but they can motivate with the office. So I think the prestige of the office, the use of the office, and especially the location of the office, the quality of the office, the management of the office will
has to be better.
Yeah, I think we got to face a situation that after 3 or 4 years of having this, weird stage that home office plays a significantly larger role in our life than before, it's clear that there are many, many negative effects. Loyalty, productivity, and a lot of other things, but still, we are facing a shortage on qualified employees, and employers are afraid to make harsh and strong decisions. They cannot force people to come back in office because they're afraid of losing people. I think it's pretty obvious that we understand, that a hybrid model should be one to go with, whether it's 3 days in office, 4 days in office. Somewhere this is the number that the most companies are trying to achieve. But still, if a very qualified new talent comes by and say, hey, I don't want to go into office, I work from home, it's very likely that they're going to hire this person because it's qualified, and it's very, very difficult to find qualified people. So employers are weak in terms of making very strong and harsh decisions regarding the office presence.
Well, I know you guys are focusing a lot on tenant rep, and so what are the tenants demanding when they come to you and they say, "Here's our brief, find us an office"? What are the things that you're seeing that, let's say, weren't there before or were not such a priority for your clients and moving into places?
It's not me who representing tenants, but what we've been receiving like RFIs in the past 1 year, we can see clear huge change on the requirement side. It's really changing, and it's based on EU taxonomy and ESG, and mostly focusing only on the E part of ESG, to be honest. But they've been starting already focusing on the S part, but they themselves are not yet ready to differentiate different kind of locations and functions. So they mix up the industrial requirements with an office requirement. So they themselves don't even know what to ask when they are moving to a new office building.
Just add a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of things which cannot be applied to an office building.
Right.
That's what we've been experiencing. But it's there. They are dealing with that. And I think the focus will be much more in the next upcoming months and years.
Tenants are getting more and more sophisticated. Tenants need something a whole lot more than just a simple good building. Obviously ESG is a buzzword. Whether you're a tenant, you're a landlord, you're an investor, you're a bank, you're a developer, ESG is something that everybody talks about. Very few people, very few parties really understand what it is, what it means to them. But if you're talking about a new development, well, first of all, I think the responsibility and the job of developers are changing. The next couple of years will not be about brand new buildings. We're not going to see a whole lot of cranes in a city building new buildings. But I think it's a good thing because we're starting to really focus on older buildings, potentially in a very good location. And they need to be refurbished. They need to be repositioned. Sometimes even a change of functions. So these buildings should be brought back into the life circle. But in terms of tenants need something, wow. So a new building or a refurbished building should have a wow factor. What it really means that I need to justify, as a managing director of a large office, I need to justify why I need to move to a new building, whether it's ESG, better location, more services. What is it really that makes me move to a building? Just because it's a newer building, just because it's a fancier building? Maybe not. Services is very, very key, and not only in the building but in the neighborhood. I want to bring the people back to the office. I need to give them an environment that makes their life comfortable and easy. If I can provide a good office space, that's a good start, but it's not going to be enough.
Right. I mean, even our office in Warsaw, great office, but there's no place to eat around there. It's like, oh, there's the same 3 places, and one of them's Subway and one of them's McDonald's. So, that's the level we're at. So, it's like, got to get in the car and drive there, right?
Actually, I totally agree with Walter that I just visited academia, which I truly liked very much. And apart from the very, very nice and welcoming and wow effects, interior design of the lobbies and so on, the kind of tiny little services that they put into the building, like there is a real working concierge app, which is there at Agora as well. But for those things, this is something that makes those buildings different, and it makes people's life, visitors' life in the building much more easier to use the building, and it creates a much friendlier and nicer entering or getting their experience. And that's I loved it very much. I received a QR code which I could use everywhere, and it's brilliant. I think that's
Thank
the future. Yeah.
So most of the employees are more looking. I notice when I'm interviewing employees, it's not about, we're not negotiating salary. We're negotiating when they're coming to the office. I mean, I'm just like, don't negotiate this with me. You're coming every day, and that's it. Yeah, and but they don't even ask about salary. It used to always be that. How much am I getting paid? What day am I getting paid on? And that kind of stuff. We don't even a lot of times get to that discussion. So is this a matter? Is this going to change with better offices, more people, that CEOs saying, "Come to the office, you've got to be here," or is this just how we're going to keep running the businesses?
I think probably the study that we talked about is true, that these people will come back to the office at one day. And what we see in our office buildings, that whenever multinational companies expire, they just extend at the existing area because they don't have a clue.
Yeah, they don't know what to do. That's what.
Yeah, but it's probably the easiest and the less risky to extend.
Yeah, no one gets fired for extending another year.
Yeah, it's like nobody got fired for buying IBM. It's a little bit same situation as Chabo is saying, that there's a huge amount of uncertainty in the system. We don't know what the heck is going to happen in a year or 2 years or 3 years. Very few companies can make a 5-year commitment, especially moving into a new building. So what we're going to be seeing is a whole lot more renewal, extension. Most likely for a short term, a year or two. Just basically, it's a safest solution. Just wait another year. Is it going to be easier? Who knows? I don't know. Nobody knows. I mean, that's a big problem, because if we knew that next year or two only half of the people will come into the office for sure, then we're probably going to need 60% or 40% or 50% less time or less space.
Right.
We don't know. I mean, we're trying to bring people back. We don't know if the economy is going to be a whole lot better. We don't know if you're going to have more people. So a lot of uncertainties in a system. Therefore, everybody's trying to just ride it out, wait it out, postpone a decision, and just ride it safe, because I mean, that's the safest solution to stay. Maybe it's not the best one to stay in the existing building. We know the canteen is not as good. Elevators are slow. The HVAC system is not as efficient as it should be. ESG, maybe it's not as good as we would like. But we know this building.
Right.
We know what to expect, and we don't want to move somewhere else where maybe it's going to be better, maybe it's going to be worse, maybe we need more space, maybe we need less space. The moving is going to cost money. If you're moving, you need to buy new furniture. IT guys will come with their requests. So I mean, it's going to be a lot of
very expensive.
Yeah, it can get expensive.
Right. So what advice are you giving tenants when they say, okay, should we just re-sign, or should we move into this new building? I mean, what kind of advice are you giving them, or how are you helping them make, let's say, longer term decisions? You guys are the tenant rep, so I have to throw that to you.
Get a great advisor who will tell you what to do.
Do you know any?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course. Okay. No.
I think it's now a bit tricky, because indexation this year on existing leases was quite heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, there are some buildings on the market. So the gap in between the index size, or how do you say it, rents, and if you would move to a new building with a quite lower rent, makes tenants think on.
Yeah, because
that's a huge dilemma for them.
Mm-hmm.
If you undertake the cost of moving with all the aspects, with all the uncertainty that is there, and what Walter said just now, that I got used to this office building, I know this building very well, I would like to stay, but it's 10-12% higher now due to the indexation. They will think it over if to move or not. I think so. So that's one drive on getting new tenants into new buildings, or refurbished buildings as well.
No, I think on a more serious note, really, what I recommend is get a good
on a more serious note. Thank you.
More serious than I said before. Yeah, I mean. I think it's a very difficult situation, because there's not a single trend. You cannot say that companies are moving, companies are staying, companies are growing, companies are giving back space. Say an example, and I can for sure give you a counter example, a different example. There are micro trends. Every company is behaving slightly different based on their specific situation. Everybody wants to know what their competitors are doing, what other companies are doing in their sector. So I think it's very, very useful to, first of all, start the process on time, carefully review all the options, and get a good understanding what's out there, and potentially really make a decision, make an educated decision, knowing that a lot of uncertainties. So maybe there's a good decision, maybe there's a bad decision, but you have to make a decision, an educated decision, making sure that you have reviewed all of your options, and try to make a decision that you're going to be comfortable with. I cannot say that everybody should move or everybody should stay. It's very difficult to say, because every company has a different culture, every industry has different drivers. So it's really a wide variety. What should companies do?
Right.
And just one addition to that, I think the Budapest office market is now so healthy that the submarkets are working separately. So it's no longer that if you have a prospective tenant and Budaörs is shortlisted together with Váci út. So tenants know where they want to be, and the market fundamentals can be significantly different in each and every submarket.
Really. So more on the Walter, more on the leasing, the services, the businesses that the services you're providing. That seems to be going extremely well and extremely.
Is that what you think? Good. Glad to hear that.
It seems. I mean, it seems like it's more just the investment sector that's really suffering. I would imagine. Seems like, yeah.
Look, I mean, there's no question. I mean, you need to look at the numbers. The investment sector is down. You know, I mean, it would be foolish to argue with that. The leasing market, yes, we're going to see a whole lot more. You know, lease extensions, lease renewals, as opposed to moving to a new location. But at the same time, it's a tenants market. You know, developers. Csaba and his company and GTC, they're doing everything in their power. They're throwing out crazy incentives to attract tenants into their new building. Landlords of existing buildings, they want to try to keep their tenants as much as possible because they feel the problem. If they lose a large tenant, it's going to be very difficult to replace that tenant and very costly to replace that tenant. So right now, as Csaba said, and I said the same thing, that it's a healthy market, but it's a tenants market as well. So now you can.
I don't agree with you. I don't think it's a tenant market. Okay. There are submarkets, buildings where it's a tenant market, and there are submarkets and buildings where it's a landlord market. I think this is what I said about the Budapest market getting healthier. So it can be that you have such a good and such a well-managed building in such a good location that you don't have to drop your pants.
You don't have to drop your pants. I mean, that's fine. But at the same time, I mean, we are seeing transactions with crazy numbers in good buildings, not crappy buildings, but good buildings.
I'm just saying that I wouldn't dare to say that it's a tenants market.
Right. Partial tenants market.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So if you're managing an older building and you're looking at the new buildings coming up, you've got to hold on to what you've got. I would imagine. Yeah. Hold on to the tenants you have because it's going to be tough to find new ones for these older buildings.
Whether you're a developer of a new building or refurbished building or a landlord of an existing building, I mean the tenant is king. I mean you want to keep the tenant because that's the number one thing for a landlord, for a developer, for a financer, for everything.
Right. So the development trends are really going to be remodeling new buildings or refit out of old buildings. Is that correct? Or for the most part of
well, hopefully, I mean, this is a great example what Convergence did, but I mean, Csaba can speak to it. But I think it's a good thing. We're going to be seeing new buildings coming back into life, hopefully, and there are some of these buildings are in very good location and they deserve to be refurbished. Obviously, it's a very, very difficult task because the numbers have to make sense in terms of refurbishing this building. But if it's in a good location and in a reasonable, good mechanical and technical stage, I think we're going to be seeing some more of the same examples as academia.
Yeah, brand new buildings tough to get financed. Right. So George, maybe tell us a little bit about how you see kind of 2024, 2025 on the development side. What do you think is going to be coming to the market, or what type of building space? What's going to be needed?
I think hotel sector is one of the sectors that will be kind of developing in the near future. Of course, industrial. So that's what we've been experiencing, that there are new players on the market. They are delivering products to the market, like huge numbers being delivered on the market currently and recently. So those are the two main sectors I would highlight. On the other hand, what I believe that next year, 2024 and 2025 will be the 2 years when acquisitions should be in focus. we've been already experiencing decrease in the market in terms of prices of lands, prices of existing buildings, and that will continue for sure. And that's somewhere 2024, 2025 will be the bottom of this, which is one of the best entry points into this market if someone considers that.
Walter, from your side, what are you getting? Are you getting more requests or some requests on hotel development or logistics? Where is your company kind of seeing, let's say, some action on either development side or, I see in Poland now there's a bit more PRS and student housing. Do you see that those kind of sectors as potential assets? Investment sector coming into play here in Hungary as well?
It's difficult to answer because obviously a Class A office building is always the most sought after investment product. Very difficult to find a reasonable price one on the market. Logistics have been very popular during the COVID, but obviously it was smoking hot for a few years. It cooled down a little bit, but it's still very popular. But that market is not as hot anymore, but still fairly popular. I mean, hotel conversions. Here's my colleague Peter Takacs, sitting in the first table. I mean, he's an expert of that. He can answer this question. But yes, I mean, it's getting back as well. Obviously, during COVID, it was a very difficult segment of the real estate market, but it's coming back, and certainly it is something that we can again talk about and discuss. Conversions, yes, as mentioned earlier, some of the older buildings, some of the old office buildings might be converted into student housing or some other functions, maybe even hotel, maybe even residential. So there's no question that we're going to be seeing some of that on the market in the upcoming years.
Yeah, I even think some of these old buildings were built to be hotels, and then they ended up being office buildings. So it's probably a little bit of just converting them back to their original ideas. So Gary, I saw you had a question. So yep, they're bringing it to you. And of course, any questions, comments, we're always happy to take them. Yeah.
Going back to the ESG, Zsolt, you said that a development opportunity is for the development of ESG compliant offices, of which there aren't any. So some of the buildings that are coming onto the market seem very impressive, like Chobber's building and the Skanska building, the Atenor buildings. Can you say if you can get the finance and we can start development of a ESG compliant office building, can you say what it provides and what it offers that existing buildings don't? For example, the Skanska building has the highest LEED and WELL accreditation almost that's possible in the market, I'm told. So what does an ESG compliant building consist of or offer, and why are developers not developing ESG compliant buildings by your definition or by the general definition?
But first of all, this LEED and WELL certifications / stickers, those are very useful as a kind of a starting point on considering the E part of ESG. WELL is rather a mix of E and S part, so environment and social part of ESG. But just one step back, so a building itself officially cannot be ESG as a certification or so all those raters who gives out ESG analysis and ratings to companies, these are purely for companies. These are not for buildings. ESG is not for buildings. ESG is for companies. So what a developer can do is to develop a building which supports and tries to fulfill their tenants' ESG compliance. That's what we can do. On E-part, of course, your question was relating to E-part, which is a very interesting question because there are two other letters in ESG, and you're absolutely right. Even the banks are not really considering S and G so far. G, obviously not, because that is something purely to be managed and to be fulfilled by the company itself. S can be supported by a building. So if you create a building, such a building, for instance, sorry to
Fine, thank you.
marketing
That was-
academia, a building which has solutions that makes your tenants and users' life much more convenient, way much more. It makes the S part, because the S part is not only getting together and collaboration. For me, it means that you need to be in the building, you need to be happy in the building, you need to enter to a building which makes you feel good. That's the very first step. And there are very, very few buildings on the market which makes you feel like that, to be honest. They try with some, nice spells in the building or whatever, but there's not a holistic or complex view or solution on how to make those buildings really appealing to the users of that building. This is something that is currently not really existing on the market. There are a few buildings which I mentioned, Academia and Agora. They are started that, and they are a pioneer from this perspective. But there are many, many huge rooms ahead of us which can be fulfilled. On E-part, like for instance in Zagreb, what we've developed in the past 15 months, because to build 11,000 GLA office building with 3 basements in Zagreb takes 15 months. I just let you digest that number. Here in Hungary, the same building could be built in 24 months. That's a huge difference. Like, the efficiency of the Hungarian construction market is so low that we should do something about this. But what I wanted to mention with the Zagreb project, that it's not a question to use, for instance, soil water heat pumps there. It's there. They are using it. In Hungary, we are just analyzing, costs and so on. But in Hungary, it's not usual. It's not common to use such things. You can use, of course, air water heat pumps, which is quite common. But things like that soil heat pumps, is not that common in Hungary, for instance. Or in Vienna, they are using, the Danube River water as a heat exchanger for cooling. So there are so many solutions ahead of us from environment's perspective. I'm saying ahead of us because it's not yet here in Hungary, or very limited, the existence in Hungary of those solutions. So that's the main thing. For instance, now GTC is developing Centerpoint. Centerpoint will be the biggest office building in Hungary currently as a one commercial building. That will be roughly 80,000 square meter of GLA. And I think one of the biggest advantage of that building is that you can have, or they can provide, more or less 8,000 square meter on one floor, which is very unique. And some of the tenants are looking at those kind of bigger plates office buildings due to the efficiency of the working environment, because they want to have an efficient working environment. And on the other hand, they want to have an efficient working environment where their employees feel good. They want to be there. They want to be happy there. And these are the things that are not yet exploited in the Hungarian market, for sure. I don't see that. Yeah. I don't know if it was a question, sorry, an answer to your question, but more or less, I hope I managed.
So your new project will be that highly ESG compliant to your
Yes, for sure. From E-part, it's definitely sometimes it already is. So we use gray water, PV panels. We use many things like really energy efficient HVAC solutions, and we diversify the primary energy input to the building. So we don't use anymore one type of energy into our buildings due to the past years kind of very inconvenient situations or happenings on district heating related prices and so on. But we've been already started to focus on much more on the social part of the ESG, because that is something we believe that, for instance, makes or helps our tenants bring back the employees into the building. And that's something that is really ahead of us. It's not yet existing on the market.
Okay, Joel, thank you. Any other questions from our audience? We're running a little bit. Oh, one over. We're in the back there. Yeah.
Thank you. It's just actually not a question, but maybe a comment from the tenant side, let's say, because I'm representing a retail company, and we just changed our office lately. I don't like 1 year ago, and what we see, what we look mainly while we are changing the office, of course, the sustainability and ESG is quite important, but as what I see, there are two different clusters in the employee part. The employees are actually deciding if we will change the office and where to go as a different office. So for some guy, some cluster, which is the less paid positions, let's say, the, these people are looking for public transportation mainly, or these people are looking for I don't know, easy access or some other basic aspects. This actually brings the gentleman's comment about the old buildings to become refurbished will be much more valuable in the future, and I totally agree with this point. But for the second cluster, which is bigger paid positions, let's say, they have cars, they have easy access, they can easily choose either subway or other locations to eat. But in generally, if the employees are happy and they stay, the tenant will stay in the office, and plus it's going to be much more sustainable tenant mix inside the office buildings. And right now, for example, in Romania, it's very common. The people change their offices or their jobs even just because of accessibility or just because of small differences, because the loyalty is a bit lower than the other European countries. But if you go to Balkan area, except Serbia, the loyalty is much more important, and these ideas are actually bringing the success of the company, who is the tenant, and if the tenant is successful, they stay much more in the office part, in that office area. So for me, the fate of the office building at the end will depend on the tenant's successful lifetime, let's say. That was a comment from the tenant side I would like to add.
Look, there is no question. I mean, the fundamental of the real estate market is location, location, location. If a building is a good location, the chances for success is significantly higher. It's refreshing to hear that you're, a good example of a tenant who is very sophisticated, who has done the homework, who understands the ESG application. But a lot of times we're seeing tenants on the market, they're coming with the criteria that, hey, I'm looking for an ESG compliant building. And when you ask, what do you mean by that? They're unable to answer the question, but they're looking for 3,000 square meters of office space and 60 parking spaces in a garage. No, okay, add it up. I mean, is it going to be an ESG compliant operation? It's not a good start. So my point is that very few tenants, very few companies really take the time to understand, the ESG, what it means to them, what it means for the building, and it's just a buzzword. 10, 15 years ago, everybody wanted to be located in a building that has some kind of certification, LEED, BREEAM, whatever it was. Tick the box. You've got your excellent, your platinum, your gold, whatever that was done. Nobody, or I shouldn't say nobody, very few companies, very few people took the time and energy and effort to really understand what it means to them as a tenant in that building. We are in a similar stage with ESG. Everybody talks about it, but very few people really understand what it is and how it should be handled in terms of a leased office space in that specific building.
Yeah, I mean, it won't be an ESG building if they need 3,000 square meters with 60 parking. Business anyway as an ESG compliant, not the building. But well, good. Well, we'd like to just kind of wrap up the panel now with maybe a few final comments or pearls of wisdom from the panel. And Shaba, maybe we'll start with you. Any angles you think we missed that you'd like to just touch on, or any final few words of wisdom you can give us?
I would just like to bring up the mood. The office market in general is fine. And I don't think that the investment market is fully dead. We saw this transaction this year. I think there will be transactions. And the transactions we saw weren't as bad yield as I would have anticipated.
Okay.
So I think next year will be a lot better, I think.
Okay, Walter?
I'm optimistic, generally speaking. I mean, we live in a turbulent times. It's a little bit more difficult than it was, but I'm optimistic because a leasing market, I mean, you've got your leases, it will expire, you got to do something with it. In terms of the capital market, yes, it's difficult time. It's not completely dead, but, a very few transactions. But hey, we've been in worse situations. We have seen more difficult times. We came out of that. So if you look ahead and you're trying to figure out what to do and how to do that, yeah, it's not easy now. But I'm optimistic that hopefully, maybe not 24, but 25 is going to be probably a whole lot better. But we got to do something about it. So, I mean, we can't just sit and wait to see what happens. We got to be active, move forward, and if we all work together, we can make it better for the near future.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. There's been a lot tougher times, actually. I mean, this is, maybe not nice, but I wouldn't call it, the toughest time ever or anything like that. Yeah, Schultz?
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. So why I joined GTC last year, it was the vision what the board showed me, or what we were discussing, that they would like to move forward. And I totally agreed with them because like very few developers or competitors of us are developing now. And there will be need for office buildings, and there will be much higher need for office buildings not in the next couple of months or years, but after 2025, 2026 for sure. And there will be no office buildings, and there are currently no office buildings, as I said, so I repeat myself, which can support and fulfill ESG requirements of the tenants. That is now. Currently, we've been receiving RFIs which we cannot fulfill with our existing office buildings. So yes, I'm optimistic as well. And for our competitors, I'm saying that stay pessimistic. We will be optimistic. So we will ride that roller coaster hopefully soon.
Okay, well, that's a good final comment to finish on. So I'd like to thank all of you for being on the panel, and please a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you for your input.